Good morning, Intenders.
Good morning.
Welcome back to Morning Intentions. Today is Wednesday, February 18th, and we're continuing our conversation from yesterday about healthy guilt and false guilt. As a reminder, to get us back on track for today's discussion, healthy guilt is the emotional signal that we believe we have violated our own values or caused harm. On the other hand, false guilt is the emotional discomfort we feel when we violate someone else's expectations of us, even though we have not violated our own values.
So yesterday we had the curiosity question of thinking about examples of when we've had healthy guilt and when we've had false guilt. I wanted both of us, Ada, to share an example of one or the other so that we can get clear about how these two types of guilt are different. So here's my example for healthy guilt. On Valentine's Day, I was making what I make every Valentine's Day, my Valentine's Day chocolate cake.
I love that cake.
I was really enjoying making the cake because I know you enjoy it. I know Dawn enjoys it.
Can I just describe that cake for a second?
Sure.
It's a chocolate cake with white cream cheese frosting with chocolate chips, usually mini chocolate chips, as a icing garnish with red sprinkles. I love that cake, and you've made it every year for Valentine's Day as long as I can remember.
I know, it's not Valentine's Day without it.
No, it's not.
So I was making this cake, and Dawn, he likes to do something every day that he can point to that's productive. He loves to work outside. He loves to do different things. Dawn also wears hearing aids. When I'm showing up as my best version of myself, I try to be extremely patient with Don and his hearing aids. But then Don and I, we have this agreement. Don, we can't really talk to one another if you don't have those hearing aids on because you can't hear me. So here I am making the cake. I'm excited to make the cake. And Don comes in and he starts wanting to have this conversation about this outside project that he's in the middle of. He continually says, "What was that? What did you say?" And I said, "Oh, you don't have your hearing aids on." And he said, "No, I don't, but I don't want to put them on because I'm just going to go outside." Instead of me saying, Dawn, our agreement is you got to put those hearing aids in if we're going to have a detailed conversation, I continued on. Then I felt myself starting to get impatient with him. I said, "Dawn, I don't want to talk about this right now. I'll talk to you about it when I get outside." Then I felt guilty about shutting him down. I said it nicely, but I felt guilty about shutting him down. He went outside, and then later on I went outside. The healthy guilt part was, for me, I didn't honor myself enough to stop the conversation and just say, "Dawn, please go get your hearing aids," and just stop it. But I allowed it to continue until I got to this place of frustration. I've been very good about setting those boundaries with Don, and Don is very easygoing, so he's typically very willing to go along with me. But then I do this, like I second guess myself. Oh, well, I shouldn't set up the boundary because he's just going to go outside and I don't want to make it harder on Dawn. Instead of just saying, "Nope, I'm not going to talk about this until we do what we agreed upon, is you putting those hearing aids in." And then it got me to this place where I was being impatient with Dawn. But really what I did is I did the self-abandonment again. I didn't honor the agreement that Dawn and I had. And one could say, well, Dawn didn't honor it either. But I'm not responsible for Dawn. I'm only responsible for me. And this is where, when we're setting boundaries, many times we're setting boundaries so that we can show up as the best version of ourselves. I didn't honor the boundary, and then I didn't inside show up as the best version of myself.
I feel like we might be on a game show. Is it Healthy guilt or false guilt? Step right up.
Well, I knew that I had abandoned myself. Like, I knew that me not honoring my own boundary was really me.
Violating your own values.
Yes.
So there was actually both going on in this situation.
I think maybe there was, actually, now that I explain it.
So there's the healthy guilt of you didn't honor your own values and boundaries.
No, and that feels this certain heavy way inside. And I even told Don later, I said, you didn't know it, but inside I was becoming impatient with you. And I am wanting to honor myself by honoring my boundaries. And my boundary is we don't have a conversation like that with details unless you can hear me. And I don't want to do that anymore to myself.
So there's also then the false guilt because you, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, can have the expectations, which would be Don's expectations, that you should engage in these conversations that have a lot of details without his hearing aids in.
So that is false guilt in that sense that I wasn't even thinking of this as a false guilt example, because what I'm trying to do is belong and fit in with Don. And I'm prioritizing, like we shared at the very end of the podcast yesterday, I'm protecting my belonging with Don as opposed to protecting my own integrity, that my words and my actions match. My words were that this is my boundary, and my action needs to be that I honor my boundary, but I didn't honor my boundary. I protected the belonging instead of my boundary.
I wonder how you would have felt if you just stopped the conversation and said, I'll talk to you when you get your hearing aids in, or some form of that, and you just stopped.
Well, I have done that in the past, and it feels so much better because I am honoring what's true for me, but I didn't. I didn't this time. I took that as real healthy guilt because I want to respect myself enough that when I state a boundary, I take responsibility for what I do next. Do I go into letting a boundary destroyer, and I don't want to call Don a boundary destroyer, but there was some boundary destroying there, I guess. I don't want to allow that. I want to say, nope, done. In a nice way.
Yeah, you don't have to be nasty or upset about it. It's just matter of fact. Because we can't have these, oh gosh, there's this expectation I should be doing this for someone else. The one that always gets me is if I think someone's going to be disappointed in me. Oh, that's worse than someone being upset with me, really.
Well, see, and that's the example that I wanted you to share. And Liz, I guess we'll have to do that tomorrow. That was true false guilt for me, what happened to us a few weeks ago. Because you were really going into guilt, and I kept saying, Ada, I'm not even upset at you. I'm upset at the situation. So let's talk about that one tomorrow.
I think that would be a great example because maybe there's a little bit of both there too.
Maybe there is.
But that's a story for tomorrow, of course. Our intention for today, let's do a repeat of yesterday. Because it can be hard when we have busy lives. We're also doing our personal development work. Let's continue checking in for examples of times when we've had healthy guilt and times of when we've had false guilt. And now with today's story, we can check in, is this a situation that has a little bit of both?
So remember, when you're starting to notice, healthy guilt is when we violate our own values. False guilt is when we think we have violated someone else's expectations. And that sense of belonging is part of that.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Our day is better because you are part of our day. See you tomorrow.
See you then.